macabre. So just, I'm warning you, there's no blood, but it is macabre. I've plucked this thing, or I've plucked most of him, and what always amazes me about a bird is how there's nothing underneath the feathers. There's very little actual creature. Most of it, I mean, look at his neck. That's all there is. And so it's not surprising that when he is looking at you, he's able to turn it round like that. That's what he's able to do. And I just wonder with the light like it is, we might be able to see this double carotid artery that they have. Yeah, not quite. But you can see how a neck this thin and flexible, it's easy for the bird to look side all the way around. You see that? All the way around. Of course, we can't do anything like that. Also, I can't, certainly. I'm going to try now. I can turn, and I'm not particularly flexible, but I can turn from here to about, say 100 degrees, maybe 110 degrees. This bird can go all the way around and look that way again, so call it 100 plus 190 degrees, 200 degrees in one direction, and that's because this neck is so skinny and so flexible. It's so long compared with how long it looks. So that's what we've achieved so far. Let's have a look at the eyes now. And what we don't realize, of course, is how very big they are. That is the size of the owl's eye. Now that's probably not too far shy the size of its brain. So it's got two enormous eyes, which obviously it must have because it needs to see particularly well in the darkness. And I wonder if that opaque colouring there isn't perhaps the nictitating membrane. I think it is. Yeah. There we go. Apparently Eggsy, poor chap, has left the FC. So I just do apologise to anybody else who's feeling a little bit nauseous as a result of this. I think it's quite important actually for our study. I'm going to expose the rest of the head properly so we can get an exact idea of the proportion of the eyes to the beak to the ears. And then let's just look here at the breast. Here's the breast, and we'll see if we can't actually extract the breast meat now. Not for eating purposes, obviously, but to compare with the size of your sort of garden variety chicken breast that you might buy, because that's where it forms. So it's the chest muscles, and it's those muscles there, it's the breast that is used as the flight muscles. That's what this bird uses to fly. And it has got a massive sternum. So in order to drive these wings, it has to have extremely powerful muscles here, because if you compare the size of the wing with the size of the muscle and the size of the body, you can see that in order for this one joint, for this shoulder joint, to drive up and down fast enough for the bird to be able to fly, there's got to be some serious muscle power in here. And that's why the sternum is raised. They've got a sternal ridge, or a ridge that comes up off the sternum. And if you want to compare yourself, just take your hand. I'm not going to do it myself because obviously I'm covered in gore. Take your hand and run it down the front of your sternum, and you'll notice that there's no ridge there. And if you were to look at the sternum of a human being, you'll find that there's your ribs come together under the cartilage, then you've got your pectoral muscles there and a little bit of muscle underneath there, but there isn't a ridge. On the bird, that sternum has a ridge that comes out to about there, and those chest muscles come out much further because they've got to drive so much more. If you were to get a bird to have to do push-ups, for example, where, the average human being can probably do, 15 or 20 at a push, most people, this thing could probably do 100 with an passing breath. It would find it very easy, and that's why it's got these enormous chest muscles here. So that's where, as far as we've got so far with our dissection of Ollie the eagle owl. I'm not sure why I've decided that he should be called Ollie, but there we are. Okay, let's go inside now. I'm going to take these gloves off and I'm going to replace them with another microscope, I don't like tiny little dots of white on the edge of the purple filaments are pollen filaments. Now look down to the bottom left hand side of your screen and you'll see a little insect. Isn't that cool? Now I don't know if that is an insect or a mite. Count its legs if you wouldn't mind, everybody. 1, 2. Let me just change the... It's gonna look pretty nasty now. Quickly, I'm just going to quickly change the exposure. I'm sorry to make you watch this, but I think it's going to give us a much better view. There we go. That's much better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's difficult to tell. I think that's a mite. I think it's got 8 legs. I think it's an arachnid. Don't leave us, arachnid. Ooh. Sorry about that, everybody. Let's see if we can re-find the arachnid. No, he's gone. Anyway, that's the Vernonia flower. Isn't that cool? I think that's wonderful. And I'll show you, I've shown you these things many times. I'm almost certain that these white pieces there are the anthers, or modified anthers. It looks a little bit like a Scottish thistle. On that note, let us head across to Tristan Dix, who is somewhere around here on WildEarthTV Access looking for lions.
We are looking for lions, James, and well, welcome back. Sorry everybody, we had a slight little gremlin issue. They ended up getting into our internet and made a little problem. Now, for those of you that have just joined us, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Dave. Now, unfortunately, we are on a very bumpy road, so I do apologize about the camera bouncing all over the place, but these are the risks we have to take when we are tracking down lions. So we are trying to find lions, and I'm trying to find where the tracks came back into WildEarthTV. They said to me at the power lines, but so far I haven't found a single track to suggest that they did come back. So I'm busy looking, trying to find out where they're going. Now, while I'm driving, Irrelevant asked me about monotonous larks. So Irrelevant, let me answer your question properly, because I don't know if you got any of it while we were going offline there, but the monotonous larks are making so much noise at the moment because of the breeding season. So like you said, it is the breeding season, and I think because they follow rain, that their breeding season tends to be very limited. So they call so long and so much to be able to then kind of find a mate and get the breeding done in the time that they need to do it. Now, according to varying sources, this is where the line should have crossed. So that's why I'm going so slowly. Dave, do you see a track anywhere? Because I don't. You know what, Dave? I think let's check towards Impala Plains again and just see. I don't know that these lions have crossed here. It could also be that the lions are lying right here and I just can't see them, with the grass being the way that it is. If they are here, it's going to be quite difficult. But yes, that's what I think about the monotonous larks. The monotonous larks, like I say, are, unfortunately, they call all night long. And so Taylor and I were talking about it last night as to why would they call so much? Why would you have a bird that calls all the way through the day, all the way through the night? And it must be because their breeding season is so short that they've got to call as much as possible to get the mate that they need to be able to start breeding. So it's probably because they also follow rain. So as they go, they trying to follow the rain, and so they're calling. Maybe that's to attract the others, and they then follow along as a group together. But I tell you what, I've never heard birds call like this, and it's been a long time since we've had the monotonous larks, but I don't remember them calling as much as this. They literally have not stopped the last 2 weeks. Even through the night, you can wake up at any time of the night and you will hear a monotonous lark calling. So it is quite something, their monotony that they do have. It's very, very apt name, that's for sure. I'm trying to look under all these gory trees and thickets into the shade to see if there's any sign of these lions just lying down in the long grass. I know Taylor almost drove over them the other day. She didn't see them until a tail swished in the air. So that's what I am looking for as well. Now, talking about Taylor, let's go and see what she's up to. I know she's all the way on Cheetah Plains. She's been quite quiet, which is unusual for Taylor. So let's go see what she's up to and what she's been doing.
Right, me quiet, that's a thing that's unheard of. Every time I am quiet, well, people panic. Now, if you're wondering who on earth is this quiet girl, I'm not normally quiet. My name is Taylor. And again, on camera with me this morning is still Craig, who's holding up quite well. He's actually very chatty this morning, which is really good. And, of course, we are out on a live safari. So if you have, I don't know, Rebecca, are you trying to talk to me? I think I can hear you. Rebecca, I'm not sure if I'm still live. I heard a whisper.
Well, welcome back. I think Taylor has gone through a little bad section on Cheetah Plains and unfortunately has lost her picture, which does happen a little bit, especially with Wendy. She can be a little bit temperamental in the mornings, so you have to give her a good pat on the dashboard and tell her that everything will be... she lost audio. Okay, well, Wendy also has an audio problem too, so Wendy is a special character. You've got to look after her and treat her with a little bit of respect and got to baby her a little bit to get her right. Even then, sometimes she can be a bit finicky. We still haven't had any luck on the lions. I'm still looking very carefully, and this is the only road I haven't driven on Vuyatela on this western side, so if they have crossed, I should hopefully pick up their tracks here. But I have a funny feeling that these lions, whoever saw those tracks, did not see them going the right way, or has given us the wrong information, because literally I have looked and scoured everywhere here and there really is not a single footprint. The only other thing that could have happened is that they could have come in from that road that we were on, and then they could have basically stopped in that area and lay down in that grass. So I'm going to have to go and check again to try and see exactly where they crossed. The problem is that there is a herd of Impala here, and as you can see, they are completely relaxed. Most of them are actually even lying down, and they are all in the shade already, which is an ominous sign that there is going to be some heat this afternoon, and that today is going to be quite a hot day. When you start to see the impalas in the shade at this time of the day, then you know that it will be quite warm today. And then you can see all the little ears flittering about as the flies irritate them. The biting flies have been quite prominent this morning. I've had a few that have landed on me and bitten me, so I'm sure that's what's irritating them as well. But alas, no lion there, I don't think, Dave. What do you think? Not in amongst that. It would be, if there was, there certainly wouldn't be that scene that we're seeing now. There would be chaos erupting. But let's onward and forward. Let's keep persevering and see if we can find anything for them. Now, on a road like this, it's really nice because it's very soft sand, so nice substrates. We should be able to see tracks very, very easily. And that's why I'm a bit concerned that we haven't seen tracks. It makes me think that they have laid down somewhere. Right, so we had our little technical difficulty, but we are back, and so let's go across to the legend, the mad scientist that is Mr. James Henry, so he can say good morning once again and carry on with his laboratory in the tent.
Good morning once again. Yes, that's very kind of Tristan to refer to me as a legend. I've always thought that referring to living people as legends as though they have achieved greatness in, say, conquering Persia, for example, like Alexander the Great, or the whole of Eurasia, like Genghis Khan, has been, well, we use it slightly liberally, I feel, the term legend, and often these days it refers, of course, to somebody who can drink 24 pints in 12 minutes. That's not very legendary, is it? I certainly can't. Anyway, very kind of Tristan to say that. Now, here we go. Just be careful. I warn you that we're now into the business end of the dissection, and there I reveal to you the breast. Now what we're doing is slowly, patiently taking away the skin so that we can reveal the muscles. And I mean, this is how I guess you have to do it if you're a butcher. I've very seldom actually killed anything that I've eaten. And I don't think I've ever actually skinned anything I've eaten before. I'm not going to eat this owl. But what we want to try and find, of course, is what the owl's sex is. And Viam said to me, did I not think that maybe those were gonads in there? And there might be. I'm not sure, though. I'm going to keep investigating now. I'm not sure that isn't just skin, but they're on the right position, of course, to be the gonads. So we'll keep looking there. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was that I've now defeathered the head completely. Look how vast the eyes are in comparison with the size of the head. They are just massive. Absolutely massive. And I bet you're going to be absolutely astounded now by how vast this bird's gape is. Look how wide it's able to open its mouth. Now, when you look at a bird like this, you probably think that it can do that sort of thing. You don't think that it has a width to its mouth like that. Now, I'm not sure. VM said, well, doesn't it swallow mice whole? And I'm not sure if this bird does, or if, like the spotted eagle owl, at least the giant eagle owl or Varro's eagle owl, it breaks up its food like an eagle would and then swallows it piece by piece. I think that that's the operation that it chooses. I don't think that it swallows them whole like barn owls do, for example. But I'm not sure. So that's the mouth. Quite astonishing. I will eventually get to skinning the head. That will be quite interesting too. But for now, what we're going to do is keep skinning here. And I'm also hoping to find the gizzard. Now, the gizzard, of course, is that stony part of the stomach that, because the bird doesn't have teeth, it's a muscular pouch, just, I think it's on top of the stomach, that crushes up the food, but only through the ingestion of stones. So the bird swallows stones, puts them into the pouch, and then crushes it up, and it eventually goes into the digestive system. James, you're wondering if there's anything in the crop, and the crop should be situated around about here. And James, I'm going to say no, that the crop will fit into the suprasternal notch over there. And I'm going to say no, he doesn't have anything in the crop. I mean, we can cut it open and have a look, and we'll certainly do that. But normally, I mean, on something like a vulture, certainly, I'm not sure on an owl like this, the crop, if it's just eaten, will extend out like that. And that's like a storage pouch for the bird to hold its meat or food in while it's waiting to try and digest it. It means that it doesn't then have to sit on its kill and feed. It can eat quickly and then move away to safety. I'm not sure how important a crop is on a bird like an owl that doesn't scavenge, but we'll hopefully find out in the not too distant future. So let's have a look at the breast muscle now. And I do apologize once again if you are slightly squeamish. This is just like skinning a chicken. It's really no different at all. And I'm sure most of us are chicken eaters. Are you a chicken eater, Viam?
Like chicken.
You think chicken's a vegetable there, don't you?
What's vegetables?
What's vegetables, he says. You can see the skin and how it attaches to the muscle. And this is going to be smaller than a chicken's muscle, breast muscle, except to say that, of course, any chicken breast that we eat is normally either genetically modified or hormone fed, and so it's abnormally large. Chickens don't fly anymore. They're just bred to have large breast muscles. And this is a painstaking process. It's a little bit like I imagine archaeology is like, except archaeology even worse. I've been reading this book about human origins, as I've mentioned to you, and goodness gracious, those people were seriously patient. The Leakeys of Kenya, and the, Dart and Broom and Tobias of South Africa, the time that they took to unearth just one piece of bone was astounding. All right, shall we try and detach the muscle now from the sternum? There we can see. There is the one. I'm going to talk to you about the colour of this muscle shortly. Let's head across to Taylor. She's on Cheetah Plain. She's got some sound, and she's got something large walking across the grassland.
We have got another herd of elephants. They're not quite walking at the moment, but I'm really hoping that this one tiny little elephant and its sibling come back out into the open, because they were really quite hysterical. The little one, who's less than about 6 months old or so, is, well, very, very sweet and lying down on the... There it is. Actually, you can see its little legs kicking. Just, here we go. If we zoom right into that elephant's bottom, there we go. Look at the little legs. Kick, 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 kicks. Maybe it's pretending that it's swimming, doing backstroke. I'm not certain. I also must apologize for earlier. I disappeared. I lost communication. But we are back, and we are going to watch this beautiful herd of Ellies, especially that little one who is now just crept into my heart and being absolutely adorable. Come here, little elephant. Look, doesn't even know how to quite use its trunk just yet. It is very young. It's definitely less than 6 months. I'd say it's probably around 3 months old or so. So it's still got a long way to go in training its muscles in order to become a big, strong elephant. But this is a very, very placid herd of Ellies. They are very comfortable. I'm comfortable. Craig is comfortable. So we're just going to sit here and really watch them. Hello, little one. Now we've got this youngster coming up to say hello. Hello, girl. Oh, no, that's not necessary. Do you see anybody else behaving with that kind of attitude? No. So why do you need to behave like that? Now she's settling down again. I always find that young cows like this are... Oh, there we go. She's using that piece of vegetation as a fly swatter, as well as trying to get it off. I always find them to be a little bit temperamental. Not necessarily in a bad way. It's almost like they're testing their dominance within the herd. But young lady... There are bigger girls out here that unfortunately are higher up on the hierarchy than you are. So you're just going to have to settle down, my dear. But she has. She's eating now, she's swatting the flies. Actually, whatever weed she's eating, that looks like a great idea to use as a fly swatter. And maybe I can eat it afterwards too, have a salad. Oh, Craig, please can we have a look at... No, now our bottom is in the way. Young lady, can you please 3 paces to the left, as there's a young elephant who is very much enjoying the same vegetation as you, but it is spinning it around like a helicopter. I think I'm going... Oh, see, I'm close. I'm not too close. I'm about 10 foot away from this young Ellie girl. She approached us. So I feel if I turn the engine on, I'm just going to give her fuel to fuel her fire that she's got going on inside of her at the moment. We'll just have to wait for her to move out of the way, and then hopefully we'll get a view of these young elephants who are playing about this morning. But it's a different herd from the one we saw earlier. But there are masses of elephants at the moment on Cheetah Plains, and well, the entire northern Sabi Sands definitely is not lacking these large pachyderms. Here we go. Swat, swat, swat. Flap those ears, swish that tail. And look at that, they've all got a taste now for whatever this little plant is that they're feeding on. Everybody is coming to eat it. And I love that about elephants, is that I'm sure they must get cravings like us as humans, because one day you see them, they're just eating leaves of acacias. The next day, they're just feeding on the bulbs of the white squill that we will start to see soon. And it just changes all the time. An incredible sense of smell. We were talking about the senses earlier. And you'll see them when they are looking for particular types of food. Trunk on the ground, sniffing it out, passing anything that they deem unfavorable. Hey, what's happening? And there's a youngster just coming up behind this girl, and I can hear another elephant too. I think it's a bull. But Craig and I actually bumped into an elephant bull when we were near Cheetah Plains Pan, and he was a bit nervous. You can see them all looking over to our right. Yes, it is. It is indeed. Is it a bull? Or is it a rather large girl? His behavior seems to be, yes, it's a bull. Have a look here. Look how he's sneaking in, smelling. This is the same bull we had earlier, Craig. Look at all the matriarch and the big girl in front coming forward saying, "Excuse me, I don't think you're supposed to be here, young man. Off you go." So we'll just have to wait. There we go. Look, look, look. She's going to chase him. She's saying, "You are not welcome here." Watching you. Get away. We're trying to watch the interaction between probably your mother as she chases off a bull. She's walking towards him. No, now she's going past him. Maybe she's just going to lead the herd away. She didn't look very happy with him in the beginning. Oh, this is so lovely. What an amazing herd we have here. But I suspect that this boy is going to come and cause some trouble, so hopefully he doesn't stay for too long. Now, Tammy, you're wondering how fast can an elephant bull run? Look at him. He's coming through, testing all the females in the herd to see if any of them are in estrus. Now, Tammy, an elephant bull can run at quite a speed. They can get to about 40 kilometers an hour at a full run. But I promise you, he's not a particularly big elephant. He's tall, but he's not a dominant bull just yet. I mean, he's still got probably another 15 years of growing before he can even think of mating with the girls. He's actually a very tall elephant, but slightly long. You know how you get those tall, young, gangly teenage boys? That's almost what he looks like. He hasn't quite filled out just yet. But he's moving through very quickly. I don't think he wants trouble here. Just coming through, testing the females, and then off he goes again. And there was a big musk bull that was up. Actually, we've seen two big musk bulls since we've been on Cheetah Plains, moving around with the breeding herds. So we must just keep an eye out for them. Hello, little ones in the shade. Now, that's my favorite little elephant that I was telling you about. In the middle, that was the one also kicking in the grass. And it is a funny little character. Very curious. Trying to figure out what am I supposed to do to get that sand in my trunk so that I can spray it over my body. Hasn't quite worked out how to do that just yet. Now, Jeff, you're wondering, why doesn't the dust irritate the inside of the elephant's trunk? That's a very, very good question, because if it was me doing that, we know what I'd be doing. I'd be sneezing half the time. And, well, I think it would be an absolute fail. Before I could even spray or throw the sand back onto my body, I would have sneezed it out. Thank goodness I'm not an elephant. I'm not sure. I think they're just used to it. I'm sure when a little elephant starts to do something like that, it must be quite intimidating. Well, not intimidating is completely the wrong word to use. I apologize. It might be a little bit irritating inside their trunk, but I think they, like anything, they just get used to it. And it's just one of those things. But remember, they're also not inhaling the sand up into their sinuses. They're sort of just holding it at the tip of the trunk. And as sensitive as those little fingertips are, they're also quite robust. And as they get older, they get more and more hardy. It's like I always say, it's like a gardener or somebody that works in the garden. Your hands get so used to it, you can just about prune roses without gloves. But if you're a first timer, you need gloves and you need a pair of, well, cutting scissors too. And off they go. As quick as that, the sighting started. They're now moving off into the distance. But what we'll do is, Craig, let's go up ahead and we'll catch the rest of that bull. He's just off on the left, and there's another cow with some other calves. So let's go and have a look at them. Bye, little elephant. I'm so sad that you've now disappeared. You were so funny. Just behind the tree there. Come on. Oh, we're going to be charged, Craig. Don't be scared now. This is very intimidating. Oh, no, having a dust bath. Come on, little one. Come and show us how big and strong you are. There's nothing quite as cute as a young elephant calf charging towards you with its ears out, trumpeting, trying its absolute best to send chills down your spine, but it doesn't. It really just makes you roar with laughter. And I suppose it can't be too good for their ego. Who knows? Maybe we play a role in lowering the egos of young elephant bulls. I'm just going to reposition. I'm going to pull my nose of the car off to the right so we can get a better view of this little one. It's okay. I'm not coming close. I'm going to the right-hand side. Look. Yes. Smile, little elephant. You're on camera. Not too impressed about that comment. What's wrong? Carry on. Carry on having a dust bath. We don't mind. There we go. Nick 1011, what a fantastic question from you this morning. You're wondering if elephants get nutrients from the insects that they eat as they eat the grass. Well, Nick, I can tell you right now that they're not intentionally eating insects at all. What I have seen before is every now and then, if an elephant goes and eats in a little pan of water, I'm almost certain that they occasionally pick up the odd frog that is hiding in the reeds or whatever they may be feasting on, and you'll see them stick their trunks into their mouths and pull out that vegetation as if they were spitting it out. So I wonder if they eat something like a millipede. I don't think that they want to intentionally eat that. I reckon that they just spit out the vegetation. Though I'm sure that there is the odd grasshopper that gets unfortunately swallowed. But because something like that is so small, I don't know if it's really having an impact on an elephant's, diet. Because remember, elephants haven't got the greatest... Look at this little one showing off now. They don't have the greatest digestive system, unfortunately, and that's why elephants do need to eat so much. Yes, yes. Brrr, little elephant, I'll talk back to you. Trying to make itself look big. Unfortunately, there's a rather large elephant behind you, so you look like an African pygmy elephant. Yes, but come on, reverse and then run forward. Come on, you've got to do this properly. Have your siblings not taught you how to charge a car just yet? Still learning this one. Maybe a little bit shy. But sorry, Nick. So unfortunately, the digestive system, so they're not really getting anything from it. Sofa-tato. That's how I'm going to feel this today, I reckon. Is this like a sofa-tato? That's a good name. You're wondering, how does it feel to be surrounded by little Ellies? Unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing things to feel when you're out here. And sadly, it's actually not a very common sort of sighting to be in and amongst a herd of elephants, particularly with lots and lots of little babies. And when we're lucky, we see it. But that's also because we're spending so much time out in the bush. Excuse me. No, that elephant didn't like that sneeze. I'm going to do another one, elephant. There we go. Do you see that as I sneezed? This little Ellie said, "What? What did you just say to me?" I'm sorry, elephant. Themselves. That as I sit in the sun, so I just quickly had to remove that. Now I feel much better. Water. That's what I feel like. Right, we'll see if we can stay with these. We see out here disappears. Let's go back across to Tristan.
So we were looking for carnivores, but this is not quite what we were expecting. We were looking for the big lions. Now, we bumped into the smallest one instead, the little dwarf mongoose, and isn't it cute? The little one popping its head out. Now, they've been excavating in there. Now, I wonder if there's maybe something inside that they're looking for, or they're trying to establish a new little burrow that leads to one of the other holes that they utilize, and will be a network of tunnels that they can sometimes duck into when predators come. And as we were saying, these are the smallest carnivores, so they do eat all kinds of little things. Mostly what they target is insects, but you'll find that they do go after scorpions, small mammals as well. I've seen them going after rodents, little elephant shrews, which are tiny, so they do go after those too. And they're such interesting little animals. They always seem like they're so busy with whatever they're doing. They scratch around and they run everywhere, and it's all very, very chaotic when it comes to dwarf mongoose. They never really sit still for too long at all. You can see, there we go, they're bounding away, like loving a little bit of sunshine, I think. So they're coming out now because the sun is out, and it means that they can start moving around without worrying about things like lion and leopard that are out, and even like the owls that James is busy dissecting. But there's obviously something of interest inside there. And you can hear when a bird takes off. So those are the lapwings that are just moved. And when they take off and they squawk, the mongoose all disappear because they know that that could potentially be a sound that there's a predator around. So they all duck into those holes and try and hide away so that they don't get eaten. Very, very clever little mongoose. Unfortunately for us, it means that they've all just disappeared. So we can thank the lapwings for that. Now the mongoose has actually got a really interesting way that it establishes dominance. It's quite something. So most of the males of a species will fight for dominance, so they typically will go after one another, and there's lots of fighting and carrying on, and they will try and then establish dominance in that way. With the dwarf mongoose, it's slightly different. It's an alpha pair society, so there's an alpha male and an alpha female, and if one of them has to get killed, then you'll find that others will try and step up and become one of the alphas. And when they do this, instead of fighting with one another, they have a grooming contest. So what will happen is that the two of them will come together, the two opponents, and they'll start to groom one another, and they start to wash and clean, and they cover each other in saliva, and it looks like they've been dipped in a bucket. They become all wet, and eventually one of them just becomes so fatigued and dehydrated from all this grooming that it then concedes, and the one that is left is the winner. Isn't that quite amazing? Very, very, very cool way to establish things. I'm glad we as humans don't have to do such things. It wouldn't be so pleasant to be covered in somebody else's saliva just to establish a dominance. It would be quite weird. But in Dwarf Mongoose Society, that is the way it is, and it is pretty cool to see how they do it. Now, I think we're going to probably abandon our search for these lions because I have not found a single track for a female coming back into this property. I've asked Aubrey, who drove Triple M as well. He says he saw nothing. The only tracks we both saw was of the tracks going out and into Simamili. So I think we're going to abandon that search. I don't think those lions are actually here anymore. So what we're going to do now is just change our game plan a little bit. We're going to go and check around and see all the dams. It's that time of the day where I'm hoping we're going to get a nice big Ellie herd coming down to a dam and having a swim and a drink and really kind of entertain us. I know Taylor's had a fantastic time with all the elephants down on Cheetah Plains, so maybe we'll get spoilt with some elephants of our own on this side. I suppose we did get spoilt this morning, didn't we, Dave? We had a great sighting of those two young bulls this morning. That was pretty spectacular. Rebecca, I agree. It was very, 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 very good. She says we were so spoilt it was a week's worth of spoils. Well, when it comes to elephant sightings, I don't think we can get much better than that. That probably ranks as one of my best elephant sightings that I've had here in the Sabi Sands. So it was really very spectacular. It would have been nice though to find the lions. It would have been good to see, and now that I've seen where these lions have walked and the pattern that they've gone along, I'm pretty sure that this is either Amber Eyes or the younger female that was accompanying that male, and whichever one's joined together, I'm sure it's Amber Eyes and the young female that joined. And from there, who's guess where they went? There's so many vehicles that have driven on Triple M. Just in the time that I was on Triple M, we saw 5 different cars, so you can imagine how many vehicles are going up and down, and the tracks just get absolutely smashed and you can't see them anymore, and it becomes really difficult. But I've also driven every single road that runs parallel to Triple M, and there is not one sign of a track anywhere of a lioness moving in the opposite direction to what we followed. So I don't know if they're here. I think, like I say, that maybe they potentially, somebody saw tracks that were quite old, because I did find old tracks, but they weren't from today. So maybe somebody got a bit excited and that's why they said that they had the tracks. Right. Now we're going to head off to these water holes, like I said, but James is still busy dissecting and making observations on a beautiful owl, so let's go across to him and see what he's busy with and what colors he's managed to find on the owl itself.
I've said this to you before, and I say it again. This is not for sensitive viewers. I have got to the business end of the dissection, which means I've cut the sternum open, and we now have the innards of the owl. Here we go. There we are. There's the sternum. Now before we go into the interior there, this is the breast meat. That is the breast muscle of the owl. So you can see that it is quite impressive. But what's most impressive to me, if you compare it with, say, a chicken breast, is that there's no fat on it whatsoever. This is all striated muscle fiber. You can see that? And it's red meat. See that? And that's because the bird, of course, I suppose much like a duck, a wild duck, which tends to be red meat as well, or even a guinea fowl, it's not white meat, it's red because it needs to be that much more oxygenated, it needs to carry that much more hemoglobin, it needs to be that much more explosively powerful. And so that's why it's that red colour. So that's the breast. Yeah, as VM said rather macabre, he said you could fry that up for breakfast. Well, I suppose you could, but I'm not going to. Then we have, now I was talking about that sternal notch, or the sternal, the sternal ridge. Here is the sternum there, that's it there. And you can see it is much larger than ours, where our ribs would join together in the middle, like that, without this ridge of cartilage and bone. So the birds does not, because they need those very powerful muscles for flying. Without that muscle, this bird doesn't fly. Okay, now we are going to try and take out the rest of the innards here, and I'm going to spread them out on the paper there. I'll just point out how far I've got so far. There is the heart. You can see it's actually pretty enormous compared with the size of the bird. There's the stomach, and in there the gizzard. I can feel stones inside there, I think. We'll cut it open just now, and don't inhale when we do that. There's the liver. You can see the different folds of the liver. And I think the kidneys are those little bits there, those darkened bits there. And then we have the intestines, the small intestines over there, the large intestine, which I've just detached from the cloaca over there. The sex organs, I'm afraid I have been unable to discern, and I wonder if Viam wasn't entirely correct in suggesting that they're these ones over here, just over there. It is really rather an astounding picture, this. Being this close to it is quite smelly, I'm not going to lie to you. Alright, should we try and take this out? If you are feeling sensitive, you can be very happy, because we're going to head across to Taylor, who's left the elephants, and well, it's probably just a little bit less disgusting than what I'm doing now. Lost signal, you're going to stay with me. Now, I mean, this is not easy to do, because I guess if you're a butcher, all you do is just, sort of pull and rip everything out, and then you butcher the meat and keep it. But I want to do this so that we've still got everything intact. And what I want to do here, there's the trachea. You see, it's been cut, it's been severed. I wonder if that didn't happen in the accident, because I didn't cut it. I don't think. Maybe I did. Anyway, there's the trachea, and we're going to cut off. Well, there's the lungs. There are the lungs. Sorry. Let me open it up a bit there. So we cut off the nerves and all the veins, and see if we can't just get the whole thing out now. Okay, here we go. All right. Tristan has got signal, no animals and less gore, so let's head across to him.
Yeah, that's very true, James Henry. We do not have any animals at all. We are driven around in circles trying to find these lions, and that has meant that we have not focused on anything else whatsoever, and it's meant that we have very little else to show you, except I've been noticing over the last few days, if you have a look here over my shoulder, I'm going to reverse back a little bit so that you can see them, but these sennas that are spread around are coming into flower, and they are splashing a beautiful color all over the bush. You've got these bright yellow flowers all over the place at the moment, and it really is actually quite spectacular. It's a pity that they are an invasive species, because otherwise it would be really nice to gaze upon, but that is not something we really want to be seeing. But it does add color to our lives, so it is really quite pretty to drive past them and see these nice colors. And it's amazing actually how many flowers have come out in the last week. Now that we've kind of gone away from that little cold patch that we had, started to see a number of flowers. Yesterday morning when I was on bushwalk, lots and lots of flowers coming out, which is really, really nice. I reckon it's going to be the last little flowering section that we have of the year. We're not going to see too many more flowers now until we get back to summer next year. Although I suppose the knobthorns do flower in the winter, which is quite nice, but that's still a long, long way away. It's normally around August that the knobthorns flower, so it's good to see some brightness and some color in amongst the bush. But like I say, it's been a little bit quiet on the animal front on this side. Maybe the lions have spooked everybody, and that's why we haven't seen too many other animals in this area. I often see kudu. Oh, there's a magpie shrike there, Dave. Did you see him? How's that? So you got a... and it's singing a beautiful song too. Not that the magpie shrike's call is beautiful. It's normally this high-pitched, piercing sound that you hear there. Now, where there is one magpie, there should be more. They generally are not on their own. They're a species that likes to spend a bit of time together. So I'm sure there are others. They do make quite a racket, and the magpie name has come just from the coloration. That black and white coloration is where they get magpie from. They used to be called a long-tailed shrike, which I thought was far more apt. They do have these incredibly long tails. Oh, there's a little laughing dove there as well. See it on the bottom there? It's on the same tree, just on there we go. So we have a little laughing dove that's also landed. The laughing dove is quite pretty. Oh, it was chased away by another magpie shrike. So there we go. As I told you, there's very seldom one magpie shrike. You can see now we have 3 of them. There looks like a little baby on the left. You can see its tail hasn't grown very much. It's still quite sort of fluffy, and its coloration on the chest is very, very light. So it will darken like the adult on the right there. And there we go. There's a family of magpie shrikes all together. Isn't that pretty? Very, very nice. All in a row. Should go and sit a 3-in-a-row pan, and then it would make perfect sense. Exactly. Rebecca, I agree. Perfect family portrait. Many a photographer would be very happy to have that family portrait for their clients. So that was very nice. Thank you, Magpie Shrikes. You did an excellent job there in positioning yourselves. It's also incredible to think that we're starting to lose the summer birds quite quickly now, and the sounds of them have disappeared, and it's almost gone unnoticed. So I haven't really thought about it, but don't think I heard a woodland kingfisher today at all. Have you heard one today? No. I haven't heard one, I don't think. So they are becoming fewer and far between, and the cuckoos definitely are nowhere near as many as what we had a few weeks ago. So red-backed shrikes are also becoming less and less and less. It's quite sad, really. I don't like when we go into winter for that reason, because all our beautiful coloured migratory birds tend to leave us, and it becomes all a little bit more dull without them. So it'll be nice if they start to stick around a little bit longer, just so that we can appreciate them for a little bit more. It's also going to make our birding challenges a lot more interesting, because it's not going to be nearly as easy to find a lot of species. We're going to struggle to find large groupings of birds and multiple different species, because a lot are going to be leaving. So it'll be interesting to see how many birds we can rack up during the winter months. Right, so Rebecca has reminded me, very rightly so, that since we're talking about vibrancy and energy that we are going to be doing a school drive for the last 45 minutes of the show. And I know that the school drives, we tend to prioritize their questions, but it really is so important for us to be doing this. It's teaching the younger generation the values of wildlife, and it's also getting them to know all of these amazing things and educating them that it's important to conserve and to protect these areas, and also to just ignite an interest in the wild, so that even if they never come to Africa, that they start to take an interest with being outside and doing things in the wilderness. So it is really very, very important indeed. Right, talking of which, it's now time to start the school drive, so that time is upon us. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go across to James Henry in his laboratory so that he can welcome the kids with a gory scene of a gutted owl.
A very, very warm welcome to the Christian Alliance Brothers School kids there, all the way from the far east in Hong Kong. It's lovely to have you with us. My name is James Henry, and you can talk to us at any stage during this drive. Just ask your teacher any questions, send us any comments you like, and we will answer your questions. Now, I'm afraid what I've been doing all morning is, well, it might be considered quite disgusting. You can see I've got these gloves here, and I've got a fresh pair of gloves for this particular part of the show. What I've been doing is dissecting an owl. Now, this owl, we don't know how it died. We think it may have been hit by a car outside of the game reserve that we're in now. And so I am trying now to cut it open and have a look at the different parts. Now, I know it sounds a little bit gross, and it is a little bit gross. Some of you are going to go, ugh, when you see it. But it's important because only through opening things up do we start to understand how they operate and how they function. And that's, of course, how we've made all the advances we have in medical science. It's only through the cutting open of and examining of animals and indeed human beings that we've managed to figure out what's going on. So the first thing I'll show you here is the head. Now, I've plucked the feathers off the head of this owl in order to show you how very big its eyes are in comparison with its head. So it's got huge eyes. They're probably about 10 times the size of yours proportionately, and I think each one of them is about the same size as this owl's brain. And that's, of course, because it needs desperately to be able to see well in the night. It is a nocturnal bird. Now, Joshua, you're asking a question about what animals would come out at night and sleep in the middle of the day. Well, Joshua, a number of different animals. Things like civets and genets, which are like mongoose. I'm not sure if you know what a mongoose is. It's a small carnivore. Maybe Tristan or Taylor, who are also out on drive at the moment, will show you one of those. Then we get lions and leopards and hyenas. They like to come out at night. And various bird species, like many of the owls, nightjars, and there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, yes, coursers. And sometimes we even find chameleons at night. We found a very nice chameleon yesterday evening. So let's have another look down here. And Chester, you're wondering how an owl hunts. Well, it has two main tools for hunting. The first, of course, is its talons. Look at those nasty claws. Those talons could do some serious damage, so it catches things like rodents, which might be mice or gerbils or things like that. And then once it's caught them with those vicious talons there, it'll swallow them. Or, well, in the case of this bird, it'll pick them up, and then it'll break them open, and then it'll swallow them into that mouth. But one of the most amazing ways that a bird is able, or a bird like this is able to catch, of course, is through flight. And a bird like an owl is able to fly silently. It makes no noise. Now, I don't know if you've got birds in Hong Kong, such as pigeons, for example. Have you ever heard a pigeon taking off? It goes... You can hear the wings going. An owl, because of the design of the wing and the way you can see the feathers, I don't know if you can see the way the feathers easily come apart there. An owl allows air to flow through the feathers, and by doing that, it makes no sound when it flies. And so a little mouse or rat or gerbil will be scurrying around in the night time looking for things to eat, and suddenly the owl will fly above it and grab it with the talons. And it can only do that because it flies so very silently. Isn't that amazing? And Yak Tay, you were wondering what owls eat? Well, this particular owl, small mammals, so rodents normally. So that's the story with this amazing creature. Now what we've done here, I know this is a little bit gross for some of you, but what I'm going to do is just lay out the inside of this owl on a piece of paper, and then I'll try and explain what's going on in the middle. While I do that, my friend Tristan is with something much more living than this, and I think possibly a lot more beautiful at this stage.
I would say so, James. These elephants are very, very beautiful in this early morning light. Now, a special warm welcome to the school that has joined us today. It is really, really great to have you. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Dangerous Dave, and we are busy looking at a beautiful herd of elephants. Now, you can see that they're all busy feeding along in these nice thick areas. They are sitting in the shade at the moment because it's starting to get quite hot. The sun is getting very, very high in the sky, and so it's getting quite warm now, which means that the elephants are going to start finding some shade, and then they're going to sit and feed all day long. An elephant needs a lot of food in its life, so these big adults will be eating about 300 to 400 pounds a day, so it really is quite a lot of food, or if in kilograms, is about 150 to 200 kilograms. So it really is a lot. You can see one of the big adult females there coming out. Isn't she magnificent? She's got beautiful tusks, and then her tiny little baby that's following her, that's almost barely visible in the long grass at the moment. So that little one, if you drove past quickly, you probably wouldn't have seen it. I think what we're going to do, Dave, let me go back so that the light is a little bit better for you, because we are in an area now where we're facing into the sun, so I'm going to try and just reposition ourselves slightly so that Dave doesn't have to shine or point his camera right into the sunlight and get a very overexposed sky. Just be careful that I don't reverse us into a tree. Always got to look behind you when you're reversing, otherwise you can end up, like I say, driving into a tree, which is not going to be ideal. How much further, Dave? Couple more meters, sorry Dave. So there's one of those trees that I was talking about, and you just tell me when is good, Dave. And there we go. I think that's going to be good. They should start coming out into the open there. So this is a very large female, and in elephant society what we will find is that the females are the ones that dictate the movement of the herd. They are the ones that are dominant, so it's called a matriarchal herd. It means that the females are in charge of what goes on. Now that's quite similar to us at home. Moms are normally in charge of what goes on at home with humans as well. So as much as dads like to think they are, moms generally run the show. And like I say, with the elephants, that is definitely the case. Now the little calf seems to be coming up alongside to try and suckle. Natalie Tan or Can? I didn't quite get that, Rebecca, but Natalie, you're asking what Cam? Natalie Cam. Right. So you're asking which herbivores eat meat in desperate situations. Well, to be honest, I've never seen any of the herbivores out here eat meat in desperate situations. I know that there are videos sometimes of hippos picking up bits of meat, even though they are herbivores, but they don't actually consume it. They tend to be able to just they're intrigued by the smell, and so they go, and because they don't have hands like we do, they can't explore it, so they often bite it and pick it up, but I've never actually seen them consume meat, and that goes for any of the other herbivores that are strict herbivores. Now we do what's called an omnivore. Now an omnivore is a little bit different, so things like baboons and are omnivorous. So what that means is that they will eat plants for a lot of their life, but then they'll also mix it up with a little bit of meat, much like us as humans. And so baboons are one of those examples. Bush pigs, which is a type of pig that we get in this area that only comes out at night, they also do that. So there are a few examples of it. Now there's a beautiful young male elephant that is right behind us at the moment. He's just stopping to see who we are, and there he is. You can see he's right behind the vehicle, so he's just coming to see what's going on. Chester, you're wondering how an elephant smells water. Well, elephants are incredible animals. They have a very, very sensitive trunk, which has lots and lots of ability to be able to pick up scent. And so what they do is they're able to put their trunk down to the ground, and they'll be able to smell moisture. I don't know if you've ever been in a rainstorm, and when it starts to rain a little bit further away than where you are, you can actually smell the rain coming. And so for the elephants, because their sense of smell is very, very strong, they'll be able to pick up that smell of damp, watery areas by putting their trunk down to the ground. Sometimes if there's a bit of a wind, you'll find they'll even put their trunk in the air to get their trunks up where the wind is blowing, and then they can smell that damp, and they'll then be able to move towards where water is. The other thing with it is that most of these elephants are long-lived, so they will end up going towards water that they've been traveling with their families for long periods of time. So the older females that have been alive for 40-50 years, they know where the water is, and they then teach the younger ones where to go to find water at different times of the year. Now, Tyler, you're wondering, when an elephant shoots water up into the air, how far does it go? Sorry, Rebecca, you're coming through with a lot of static, so I can't hear the names very well. Silas, there we go. Sorry, Silas. I do apologize. We've got a bit of static in our radio, so I can't hear the names very well. But you're wondering, if an elephant shoots water up into the air, how high can it go? Well, Silas, I'm actually not sure. I don't think anybody's ever measured how high it goes. But given that you can find big male elephants that stand over 3 meters tall, then if you take where that trunk is, and if they had to put it above their head and shoot it straight up, you would probably mean that you would get the water to go, I would say, maybe 5-6 meters into the air. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, sounds good.
About there, that would be about right, which would be quite interesting. But I don't think anybody's ever measured or ever checked how far it actually goes. It's one of those things that elephants don't actually do that often. You'll find that you see pictures of elephants with their trunks up spraying water into the air, but they actually don't do that very much. When an elephant sprays water, it's normally to try and cool it down. So what they do is they take the water with their trunk, and then they spray it on their bodies. So they actually spray it from below the head, and then they kind of put it over the ears and on their backs, and that just helps to cool them down a little bit more. So it's a little bit different. It's not like what we see in the pictures, and like I say, I don't think anybody has ever tried to measure how high the water actually goes, but it would be something quite fun to do. I'll start watching and seeing, and if I see one spraying into the air, I will definitely take note and try and see how high it goes. But isn't it amazing how this young male is just feeding close to us here? So this male is probably now, I would say, maybe about 13, 14, maybe a little bit older. So he's a teenager, and his time with the herd is almost done. He's going to start moving away, and the females are going to chase him away, and he's going to have to be on his own. Cornelius and Dohian, you want to know how big is an elephant? Well, I suppose there's a few ways we can measure them. The one is by weight, and the other one is by height. So by weight, if we had to look at female elephants, you're going to look at about 4,000 kilograms, so about 4 tons or 8,000 pounds, and it varies a little bit from there, so you go about 3.5 to 4.5, whereas with a male you're looking at about 5 to 6 tons, so 5,000 to 6,000 kilograms or 12,000 pounds. Now that is an incredible amount of weight. Now if we had to go to the biggest elephant ever recorded, the biggest elephant ever recorded weighed a whopping 11,000 kilograms, which is amazing, which is really, really big. But it stood at about 4 meters, which when you think about 4 meters is really, really tall. If I had to stand up, I'm only about 1.8 meters, so that is basically 2.5 times my height, which is really, really big. Now, I'm just going to reverse to try and stay with them because they are moving to another road, so we should get them crossing right in front of us. Jeremy, you wondering? Sorry, Rebecca, you came through again very static, so Dave, did you hear? So Jeremy, how long do elephants live for? Elephants can live for, depends on the area that they're in. So here in South Africa, in the part of the Kruger National Park that we're in, is a very wooded savanna. So you can see lots of trees around. So the elephants feed a lot off the bark of these trees and the branches, and that wears down their teeth a little bit. So generally in this part of the world, the elephants will only live to about 55, maybe 60 at a push. That will be a very old elephant. But if you go into more sort of wetter areas that are more grassland, so up into the Masai Mara, where we are going to be going in a few months to bring live shows from there, as well as the Okavango Delta, where the vegetation is very soft, then you'll find that the elephants can live slightly longer, and they might even go up to as much as 70 years, which is quite a lot. Justin, so you saw Steph, the intrepid, eating elephant dung, and you say, how did he not get sick, and what does it taste like? Well, Justin, I don't know how Steph doesn't get sick. He has a stomach that is made of iron. He just is able to deal with it. I don't know, maybe he has a secret stash of pills that keep his tummy in good shape. But generally though, elephants are actually quite clean animals. What the dung is made of is really just grass and leaves that has gone through the stomach acids and has been broken down a little bit. So there's actually not too much inside there that will make you ill. So that's why he's able to do it, in all seriousness. And taste-wise, I have no idea. I've never ever in my life tasted elephant dung. I don't think it will be very pleasant to taste. It looks very mushy and very stinky, so I don't think I'm brave enough like Steph to be drinking the water out of an elephant's dung. Now you can see there's a bit of dusting going on there as well. So they're just trying to look after their skin. They're throwing dust in the air and all over themselves, trying to keep themselves nice and clean and getting rid of all the dead skin cells that they may have. Now, talking about elephant dung and drinking of it and something that might make you sick, I think James Henry, the mad scientist in his tent, has opened up that owl, and it is apparently quite gross, according to Rebecca, and might make you feel a little bit ill.
Well, that's not a joke at all, is it? It is very gross. Right, let's have a look inside. What I've done here is I've opened up the stomach. There we have the stomach. And it would look, if you looked carefully in there, you'd see that I was telling you a lie. Because what we have in here is nothing to do with rodents. There are no bones or pieces of rodent at all, but there are lots and lots of pieces of insect. You see that? That is the head of an insect of some sort. So this bird, before it died, was eating insects. And there are lots and lots of creatures out here that will eat insects when they can, because they're a very rich source of food. Here's an insect leg. There we go. And Eric, you want to know if there are any endangered owls? Yes, there absolutely are. There's a wing. Eric, we've got two endangered owls that could possibly be seen here. One is the Pell's fishing owl. And then I think you'll find that although not strictly endangered, the giant eagle owl, or Verreaux's eagle owl, which is a bigger owl than this, is also relatively endangered. And then further south from here we get something called the Cape eagle owl, which is very similar to this one, and it is also endangered. So yes, there are a few endangered owl species around here. Let's just see what else is here. What else is quite interesting here is the stones. Can you see the stones there? Now the stones are very, very important. What they do, remember, a bird has no teeth, and so it swallows this food into what we call the gizzard, which is the muscular part of the stomach. This here, this thick piece, is muscle. That thick piece there is muscle on the stomach. And what the stones do, they act like a grinder, so it crunches and crunches and crunches the things inside the stomach here. And the only way for the bird to break up the insects into these tiny little pieces is through crunching them and crunching them in this gizzard. And that's what those stones are for. Justin, you say, do we dissect a lot of animals? Justin, we don't. And we don't dissect a lot of animals because they're not actually that hard, at least easy to find. We don't go and kill animals to dissect them. We only wait until we find already dead ones, and then we dissect them. We've done some frogs here, we've done a woodpecker, we've done a hornbill, and now we're doing this owl. Now, I'm struggling to understand exactly what's going on with the rest of this here. Okay, when you look into a vertebrate's inside, so in other words, an animal that's got a backbone, there are a few things that you should easily be able to find. One is the heart. There's the heart, we're pretty sure. You can see that. And the way we know it's the heart, you can see that it's got, can we still see them? You can just maybe see there a tube. That's one of the veins or arteries that goes into the heart. Now, you need to be a doctor to really understand exactly what's going on in here, or an anatomist. So that's the heart. Then we should be able to easily find the liver, and I think that's what we've got over here. We think that's what that is, livers. But I tell you what we can't find, and we don't know if these maybe aren't them, or the lungs. I don't know where the lungs are. And I think the reason we're struggling so much is that this bird was picked up probably about a day after it was killed, which means a lot of the insides have started to rot. And look, a proper anatomist would be able to tell you exactly what was which and how and where it's all gone. But I'm struggling to find out exactly what's going where. Then this is the intestine. And the intestine would have been attached to the stomach, and through it will travel all of the food that this animal has eaten. And somewhere in here also we would be able to find the kidneys, but they also seem to have turned to mush. I suspect that might be them over there. So that's the inside of this bird, which I think is quite astounding. Isn't that beautiful? Then let's have a look here at the ears. Now, I showed everybody who came on drive with us earlier this morning the ears, but it's much easier to see now that I've taken the skin and the well, not all. I'm just going to cut a little piece here. An owl is able to tell distance from sound. And I'm just going to show you how that's possible. Let's go this way. See, there's the ear. Now that ear is much higher up than the ear on this side. Now, by having ears that are not the same height as each other, this bird is able to tell distance from listening. Now, when you can't see at night, that's very important. Let's head across to Taylor now. She's got a stripy pony. Unfortunately, I think it's got an injury.
Hello everybody, and of course welcome again to Safari Live. My apologies for my absence, but my name is Taylor and on camera with me today is Craig. Now, I must warn you, before we have a look at the zebra, it is quite gruesome. The zebra has been attacked by lions, but luckily has made an escape. So let's have a closer look so I can explain exactly what has happened. Now, it's not adult zebra. There's a bird zebra that we see hanging around on these open plains almost every single day. And if you look very, very closely, you'll start to see the blood. Sorry, it's gone, so now I can't see. That's wonderful. Right, so I'll just have to pretend like I can see. My monitor's just gone on and off, so I can't see what Craig is seeing. Hang on, here we go, let's switch back on again. So you can see that the lions were obviously chasing the zebra around and managed to catch it last night, or even early this morning. Actually, maybe even more early this morning. And that is from the claws. They've obviously pinned the zebra down or grabbed on hold of it. And you'll be surprised as to how thin the skin of the animal really is. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the zebra just for the moment, because Tristan has found something a little bit happier than this sight. Let's go take a look.
Indeed, Taylor, this is so amazing. These little baby elephants are having such fun together. They've all decided, I think, that it's time to have a rest, and so one of them is lay down, the other one's lay on top, and now look, there's a third baby climbing on top of that one. So it's like a stack of elephants at the moment. Isn't this cute? Look. Now this is exactly like little children when they play together. It's the same thing. These little babies are just playing and they're having fun and they want to just try and bond with one another. And I think the bottom one, who was trying to just have a nap, is going to get very upset shortly because all of them are playing all over him. But isn't that amazing? Now those elephants are probably about, I would say, maybe 20 feet away, not even. So the trust that the moms are showing in us, for us to be able to sit this close, is really quite something. So you can see they are really quite close, and the male is very close as well. Royce, you're wondering, what do elephants do to take care of their babies? Well, elephants are particularly good mothers. They really are very, very good at keeping their babies safe. So one is that they'll form a herd together to be able to protect the babies. So they form a group like this so that multiple females can keep the babies safe. The other thing that they do is they obviously provide milk for their babies. They provide really good food so that when the babies are very small, that they're getting nutrient-rich food so that they grow big and healthy and are very, very strong when they get older. And besides that, they also help with keeping their baby and teaching their babies how to survive. So they'll teach their babies what food is good, where to get food from, and where to find water. As I was saying earlier, they'll be able to guide the little babies to any little water hole to be able to find water in even the toughest of times. So the mothers form a vital role in keeping the babies alive and showing them where they need to be in order to find the food that they need to survive. Oh, nap time is over. We're now up. I think the male unfortunately ruined nap time. He walked right into the middle of all of them and they've now gotten up and moved a little bit. But wasn't that amazing? It was like a elephant pancake stack. Everybody was on top of one another. It was really quite something. And now you can see they're all just stopping. And I think what they want to do is have a nap. The older females, when they were standing very close to us, their eyes were starting to droop a little bit. And it is a nice shady place that we are in. So it almost looked like they were going to have a nice sleep until the male arrived. And now the herd, you can see, is moving. And what is amazing about this is that even though we didn't hear any noise, the elephants were making a sound, much like whales or dolphins, that is very, very, very low frequency. And it's basically telling each other that it's now time to move. And look how everybody starts to move together. It's really quite something to watch. Now, we're going to follow our Ellies around and see where they go. Maybe they're going to go to a waterhole and we can measure how high they spray water. But while we do that, let's go back to Taylor with her gory zebra and see how the zebra is doing.
So, as I was saying earlier, is that this is not a particularly old zebra, and that's typically what lions will go for, is they'll try and pick out a small zebra or smaller animal because they're easier to catch, or one that's injured. Now, we've been seeing this particular herd of zebra that hang around here, and they've all been very healthy. Now, Edward, you're wondering how on earth is this zebra still alive? Isn't it incredible? All I can say to you that the zebra is actually very, very lucky and literally has got away with the skin between its teeth. The only thing that's really injured is the fact that it is now missing a couple of stripes. Its back right leg, as you go down towards its hock, looks to be a little bit injured too. However, can you believe that this zebra will most likely make it if it is able to stay out of harm's way? You see, the problem is now is that because it's got this fresh injury, is, of course, sorry, I'm just waiting for Rebecca to, I'll continue my question in a moment. I just want to finish answering Edward's question. So, it's not able to run away as quick as what it would, which is very, very sad. So, it could potentially be picked up by these lions a little bit later, or infection is going to set in and unfortunately take the zebra. But I have seen zebra come back, many animals come back from after a lion attack, and like I said, this zebra is very, very lucky. It doesn't look to be actually as serious of a wound. It's not going to bleed out. It's just the skin that's been torn. Now, Aaron, you're wondering how long will it take the zebra to heal? Well, Aaron, let's say if the zebra has got the best chance of survival, it's able to avoid all predators, it's able to keep its wounds clean and avoid infection. I reckon it will probably be about a month or two before the zebra fully recovers. Remember, that skin has now all got to scab up, and then new skin has got to form. You know what? The most painful thing that I can imagine must be that section that is hanging from underneath its belly. You can have a look there. That must be very annoying because that's pulling tight on the wound. And Craig was actually saying, you know what it's like when you scrape your knee and you take off the skin? Every time you move, it burns, especially when a scab is healing and it's just a newly formed scab and you split it open again. It's not that nice. It hurts. So that's what the zebra is going to face. But hopefully it's going to meet up with the rest of the other zebra and they'll have a better chance to survive. Now, if you have a look very closely, you'll notice that there is a little bird. It's jumping up on its back every now and then. And Hyman, you're actually wondering what on earth is that bird doing to the zebra. There we go. It's underneath its stomach now. That is a red-billed oxpecker. And we often see them on all the different animals. And it is actually feeding on the blood at the moment of this wound. Normally, they eat the parasites. They feast off of the ticks that feed on the blood of the different mammals. And that's what the oxpeckers are eating, is that they don't eat insects, but they feed on blood. So this is actually a really interesting thing to see because we always think of oxpeckers as to what a good job they do. They're the cleaning crew out in the bush. However, in the case like this, they can actually irritate wounds. They'll often reopen scabs so that the blood will start to flow and they can feed on that. And that's what that oxpecker is doing. It's just going around and feeding on the blood. I don't know exactly how fresh this is. I think this was a few hours ago because the blood is not gushing anymore. So hopefully this little zebra is going to make it. I'm going to be positive, and I think that it will be fine. Let's just hope that the lions don't find it again, or hopefully if it isn't a severe amount of pain, hopefully the lions put it out of its misery this evening. But we're going to leave this chap. We're going to let it relax and hopefully settle down. We won't put too much pressure on it. But I'm going to send you back across to James now, who's still in the tent.
Right, we've got there, everybody, some flies that are now coming in because it's got hot and this carcass is starting to stink, and these flies are going to lay their eggs, they're going to eat, and they're going to lay maggots inside the meat here, and eventually it'll rot. So what I'm going to do, I think we've done all that we can with this. We're going to put it into the bush. It'll be consumed by ants and flies, and then it'll pass into the... Oh, this is an interesting question from Chester. So it'll pass into the nutrient cycle. Chester, you say, how can an owl turn its head 360 degrees? It can't. But it can turn it, say, 270 degrees. And it's because it's got this very streachy skin neck with a very flexible spine. And if I turn it like this, that's 90 degrees. There's 180 degrees. And there's sort of 200, maybe not 270 degrees, 200 degrees. And that's before I start to feel any resistance. If I turn it the other way, we get about the same. So about 200 degrees before there starts to be any resistance from the spine. More than that, and you'll snap the spine. Isn't that amazing? And look at his eyes. I just think that's astounding. And I'm not sure if his eyes, why they look quite so deflated when they're not pushed like that. But I think maybe they've started to rot inside there already. All right, everybody, for the last few minutes, we're going to head you straight across to Tristan, who's got an eye that can still see.
We do. We have a elephant bull that's right up near us. It's just crossing in front of us, so we're keeping our voices down so we don't scare him. But he's right close to us. You can see, look at the eye there, and the long eyelashes that protect the eye from all the dust. We saw just now when they were throwing dust at themselves, that just helps to keep the dust out. Also, any thorns when they're walking, they try and keep those out. So really quite amazing how long their eyelashes are. And look at how wrinkly his skin is. So they have very wrinkly skin, and that's just to help keep them nice and cool, because the more skin that they have, the more heat will come off it, and the cooler the elephant will be. So wrinkly skin is a big advantage. Chester, you're wondering what happens if I tip over an elephant. Well, Chester, if you're brave enough to go anywhere near an elephant to try tip it over, you're more than likely not going to be living to see the next day. Elephants are not calm animals. They are very dangerous, so you've got to be very careful with elephants. If you go anywhere near them, they will potentially kill you. And in a herd like this with females, you won't make it out here. So you'll be probably, unfortunately, squashed if you go anywhere near to try to tip over an elephant. So also, we are not strong enough to tip over an elephant. That elephant there probably weighs 4 tons. So there's no ways that even if I went there and pushed my hardest, there's no chance of me pushing it over. Well, it's coming to that time, unfortunately, where we're going to have to say goodbye. It's been so good to have you guys. I hope you enjoyed the owl and the zebra and the elephants all around us. It was a very, very special way to finish the show and have you guys with us. So I hope you really enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And for all our other viewers, we'll see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari. So from myself and Dave, goodbye everybody.